he's going to talk to us about eTexts. And so at the end, we'll have a drawing, and that's why you signed in and put your name on a piece of paper. So I'm going to turn the time over to Bob, and thank you very much for coming.
Great, thanks for having me.
Yay!
I wanted to start off by asking a question. So how many of you have used or have considered using an eText in your classes? Considered?
That's why I'm here.
Okay. But nobody has actually used one. Well, I guess that kind of does away with this question, and what advantages and disadvantages have you found in using eText? Next question, though, is how many of you have considered developing an eText for their classes? Maybe, okay. So the reason that I'm here is over the course of the past year, I've had the opportunity to develop an eText for my critical thinking classes. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the process that I went through doing that, talk a little bit about the technologies that are available, and kind of give you a sense of what's involved in doing it. So first of all, a little bit of background on the project. The textbook that I've created is one called The Art and Science of Critical Thinking. I wrote this back in 2003. Of course, it was not an eText back then. It was just a paper text. And I wrote it before coming to Weber State. I was a student at William & Mary. And quite frankly, I was just tired of the costs of these textbooks. I mean, critical thinking doesn't exactly evolve like a lot of other fields. There's some pretty standard topics that people discuss, and you find them in all the different textbooks. And yeah, there's different ways of presenting it, but there's really no justification for coming out with the new editions every year. And I just went online a couple days ago to look at the prices of some of the leading textbooks, and they range anywhere from about $133 to $145 each. You know, these are not science textbooks, they're not business textbooks. These are critical thinking textbooks. So I just, you know, it just offended me. So even though I was at William & Mary and you have a much more affluent student body than you have here, still, I mean, just the idea of asking my students to pay this much for a textbook, I didn't like. So basically what I did was I took lecture notes that I had created some years before when I was teaching critical thinking online, and I expanded them out because I taught it so many times that I had a good sense of how I like to teach critical thinking. And I expanded it out into a textbook. Now, I never had any intention of publishing it, and in fact, I have no intention of publishing my current textbook. My intention is just providing a low-cost alternative to students. And of course, when I've used it in the past, up to this point, I've always just distributed it to them for free. Basically, when I was using the paper version, it was just up to the students to make a photocopy for themselves. That's on the file and print out. Okay, so I haven't used the text much since coming to Weber State. However, I started to rethink that in fall of 2013 when I attended the Innovative Teaching Conference that Weber State held up in Park City. It really got me thinking about using electronic text. And I remember some of the speakers there talking about these free electronic resources that professors from across the country were creating and sharing on all these different sites. So you can go out there and find all sorts of neat resources for your classes that people have just created, all this content that they create and just push out there. And I thought, hey, this would be great to be able to take my old critical thinking text and spiff it up a bit, make it, put it into an electronic format, and again, make it more widely available. And also at that conference, Mike Vaughn talked about this new innovative and creative teaching grant that he started last year. I haven't heard anything about that this year, so I don't know if it's being continued or if I just got lucky and got one during the 1 year that he did it. But anyway, so I put in for a grant to do the development of this over the course of last spring and summer. And then at the same time that I was doing that, I attended the inaugural blended learning program, which was jointly put on last spring by the TLF and WSU Online. Because part of my thinking in this process was, well, if I'm going to create an electronic textbook, I have to have a good idea of how I'm going to use it. So in what sort of teaching modality would it be most useful? To that point, I had only taught in the face-to-face and traditional face-to-face and the online formats. But I thought, with the blended learning program, this was an opportunity to learn more about blended and flipped learning. So this is a little bit of the background that led me to doing this project. So I put together some steps that I think is useful to go through if you're going to create an eText. And as I just mentioned, probably the first and most important step is to determine what you hope to accomplish and what teaching modalities that you want it to support. So in going through the blended learning project, I decided that I was going to restructure my critical thinking class so that I'd be able to teach it in a flipped modality. And going into the program, I didn't really know what the difference was between blended and flipped teaching. Are all of you familiar with those terms and what the difference is between them? A little bit? Okay. So roughly, when you're teaching a blended class, you teach some of it in face-to-face, as however you want to do that, and then some of it is put online. When you teach it in a flipped modality, you don't take away any of the class time. Rather, you spend all of your class time doing projects, and then the students, when they go, when they're working outside of class, that's where they're watching video lectures and reading the text and that sort of thing. So instead of you lecturing in class, you have your lectures online for them to watch, and then they come. It works very well for something like critical thinking or mathematics, because when they come to the class, then they can work through all the various problem sets that you have for them. So it can be a very structured, group-oriented classroom. So that's what I decided to do, is to turn my class into a flipped class. And again, I created my eText with that in mind. Okay, next step is choosing a program to use. And this is where things get a little bit problematic, because really there are two main contenders out there. There's Adobe's InDesign, which all of us have access to for free. So if you don't have Adobe Suite downloaded onto your computer, you can have that put on for free. And I believe you can even, as faculty members or staff members, we can have that downloaded onto our home computer for something like $10 a year, which, given the cost of the program, that's just an enormous bargain. So that's the first one, is InDesign. The second one is an Apple product called iBooks Author. Now, InDesign, one of the advantages of it is that you can use it to create books in an EPUB format. And EPUB formats can be used across a variety of platforms. You can use it on tablets and laptops, and it doesn't matter if you have PC or Apple. You can even create EPUBs that are usable on a Kindle, although Kindles don't support videos. So, that's a great thing about it. Again, it's available to all of us for free. The downside to InDesign is that it is enormously complex. If you pull up InDesign on your computer and it pops up, you just think, you've got to be kidding me. There's little buttons that surround all three sides, and they use terminology. Instead of inserting or importing a document in, you place stuff in there. So you find a document you place. So there's just all this whole new terminology that you have to learn if you're going to use InDesign. It's not very intuitive. It takes a lot of training. The Apple product, on the other hand, iBooks Author, again, you can get for free. Apple allows you to download it. And the big advantage of it is it's highly intuitive. It's easy to use. You can just sit and play with it and figure out how to do it. And the nice thing is, with our IT people, Ty, I can't remember his last name, Ty
Naylor.
Naylor, thank you. Ty Naylor has been extremely helpful. Whenever I have questions, go over there and you can show me how to use various aspects of it, right? So we have good support here on the university. So there's some great advantages to using the Apple product. Big downsides, however. One, you can only use it on Apple products. So in order to use this program, I had to go out and get an Apple laptop. I'm a PC user. So I was able to secure funding from different places and purchase MacBook. So there's that limitation. But a bigger limitation is that it doesn't create things in EPUB format. It only creates things in iBooks format or PDF. Now, I figured out the reason that they do this is the program itself is free, but if anybody wants to sell something that they create with this program, it only having the iBooks format, you have to sell that over the iTunes or the iBooks store, and Apple gets a 30% cut. So it's their way of controlling it, and it's their way of paying for supporting this program. If you create a PDF out of this, then it doesn't have the videos included, and it strips a lot of the functionality out. You can then go to the Adobe product, right? You use Acrobat, and bring the videos in, and then save it as a PDF that way. And in fact, the version of the text that I'm using this semester is just a PDF where I've imported the videos into it and just pushed it out to my students for free. So pluses and minuses with both of these programs. Now, there might be a third alternative coming. The people in campus stores are talking to a company that's read something or other, I forget what their name is, and they're actually able to take content that you give them and create an EPUB that's just as nice as an iBooks text is. And I'll show you my text here shortly, and you can see all the functionality that it has and some of the cool stuff you can do with it. So jury's still kind of out on that. I'm going to see if I can work with them, see if they can put together the EPUB for me. And then you can just, one of the advantages of doing it that way is you can then just edit it online and push out updates to your students who have the document. So anyway, again, there's no ideal situation here in choosing a program. All right, second thing that you might want to think about is what sort of videos you want to use. So as you can probably imagine, when you create an eText, it gets big really fast. It becomes an enormous file. And so, again, we have this recording studio over here on campus, and they create wonderful videos for you. But it's not something that you can just import into a document and then say, oh, here, students, download this. You've got 25 lecture videos or something packed into a document. That would probably just take up their entire computer. So one thing to think about is, well, what sort of program do you want to use to create videos? And I happen to use one called Camtasia. Camtasia is a screen capture program, which means that you can, when you're running it, you can record whatever it is that you're doing on the screen. So you can do demonstrations of how to do stuff and how to voice over and so on. But also, you can tie in a little webcam to it, which is what I do, and you can create your own videos. Or something else that I do is I have just a little Logitech webcam. I create my own videos, and then I import it into Camtasia, and I do all the video editing with that. So I'll show you an example of the video that I put together shortly as well. Other things that you might want to think about are interactive elements. And this is something where the iBooks program really excels, because there are these little widgets that are built into the program, and you can do things like quizzes. You can have little widgets where you've got just a whole bunch of pictures imported into it, and they can just scroll through the pictures and see them with captions. There's, what are they called, pop-out widgets, where you can click on something and it pops it out. And there's just all kinds of really neat things you can do there. And I've made some use of that already, and I'll show you how some of that works. And then the last thing to think about is graphics. Again, we have some really good graphic designers here on campus, and you can go to them and say, all right, I'm putting together this book, and here's kind of what I'm thinking in terms of what I want my cover to look like, and on my title pages, I want a graphic that kind of looks like this. And they do a wonderful job of putting these things together, and you don't have to worry about it. And it makes your book look a lot nicer. Okay, so far so good. Yeah, Tom.
Do you know if Adobe has similar interactive elements?
I have not worked closely with Adobe. From what I've heard, they do, but again, it's harder to work with. And in fact, one thing we're going to do here today is I'll just throw together a book real fast, and I'll show you how easy it is with iBooks Author, which is not something I could do with InDesign. From what I understand, there's also a lot of widgets out there that people create, and you can import them for free into your program, use those as well, so you're not just restricted to the ones that come with the program. Okay, so let me pull this up. So here we have iBooks Author, and actually, you know what, I'm going to close this. Before I show you my book. This is what it looks like when you first get into iBooks Author. And it gives you all these various templates that you can choose from. So one of the more standard ones is the classic, and in fact, this is what I've used for my book. So just for fun, let's open that up. And what we see here, we've already got the basic structure of a book started. So we've got book title, intro, media table, contents, glossary. Here we've got the chapter, and then you can have different sections under the chapter. And when you first open these things up, they have just all this placeholder text in Latin. And you can very easily just get rid of that. That's just so you can see kind of where the text will go. I'm going to change the section text a little bit so it looks like that. Okay, so let's get into section 1. Let's call, I don't know, chapter 1. Shall we do our chapter title? What's that?
Wildcat.
Wildcat. All right, great. So we're going to call our book Wildcat. And let's do this. This is our interactive eText about dogs in Eastern Europe.
I think that's what
So we've put a chapter in here. Now if we go up to the table of contents, there it is. So it's already put that up there for us. All right, so now we go into a section. Now we need some text in here. So I'm just going to go into my box sync folder, find some random text here. Let's go into textbook. How about the original? Let's just grab my chapter 1 here. And how easy is it to input text? Well, I'm going to grab this document right here. I'm going to drag it over into the section and drop it. It says choose a layout. I want this layout. Choose it, imports it. For some reason, when you do that, it creates a new section. So this one, I'm just going to delete. And so now this one becomes my text. Now, because I've got boxes and stuff in here, it's a mess, right? So you've got to do a lot of formatting, you've got to do a lot of cleaning up, and sometimes it can be, I'm just going to get rid of some of this stuff. And now we can look through and we see, I think I'll just move this guy in here. That's probably where it was in the first place. Here's a line that I had over here before, so I'll put that guy in. And this one's supposed to go at the end of this. And so on. So, you know, I've got a chapter put together. So now I'm going to want to probably change the title here. I just want to call it Writing Basics.
Does the formatting hold when the students will pick up on their computers?
Is what I'm sorry?
The formatting stays put?
Yeah, so I'll show you
So all those lines
what happens
are-
before. Oh, yeah. So this is just, you know, you're doing the formatting here, and this is a really terrible typeface to do it in. I think this is all just Times New Roman. So Calibri is a good one. What's the one I use? So the Calibri.
Do you remember the old
Can I just
ones?
ask a quick question since there's stuff in right now
Yeah.
for the students? Where are you creating this and what?
This is iBooks Author. It's a free program you can download from Apple's website. All right, so now we go back to the table of contents, and because I've just called that section argument basics, there it is, and it tells the page number. So it's always updating stuff as you're going through. Now, this is where things get fun, because now I've just got a bunch of text in here, and I'm not going to worry about, obviously, formatting it right now. I'm going to close this up. Or not. We always do. Let's close this up a bit.
Can you import images?
Absolutely. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. So, first, what we're going to do is import a video. So here's where the widgets are. Click on the little widgets icon, and you can put in image galleries. You can put in media. You can put in quizzes, interactive images. I have no idea what Keynote is. All this other stuff that you can build in. So I'm going to, let's start with media so you can see how this works. So there it is. There's my box that I'm going to put my media in. So I can grab that, which I can grab that, and drag it around. Maybe I want to have it right about there in the text. Just leave that for a second. I'm going to shrink it up because that's taking up too much space. All right, and there it is. And I can put, maybe I want it on this side of the page. Maybe I want the stuff to scroll around this other way. So maybe I want the text to go around it. There we go. I want it to do it that way. Okay, so there's my media box. And now what I can do is simply drag and drop media into there. So once again, I'm going to go up to my box folder. Go back into textbook, and let's go ahead and put the video that I created with Camtasia into there. So here it is. I'm going to drag and drop it, and boom, there it is. Now I've got a video in my text. Now, once again, you've got some Latin stuff in here. So you've got a title and you have a caption. Maybe you want to get rid of those. Maybe you want to keep them. Right?
When the student clicks on that and listens to and watches the video, does that take up the whole screen, or is it only after he?
I'll show you.
Okay.
I'll absolutely show you that. Okay, so let's call this a great lecture. I don't particularly want a caption on it, so I'm going to go to, let's see. Okay, here we go. Should be under the layout. I'm just Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time here. But I can launch it from here, and then you can see it play in here a little bit. Okay. But I'll show you what it looks like when you actually have the book put together, because this, we haven't really done anything yet. All right, so that's one widget. Here's another one, gallery. So let's create a gallery. Maybe I want my gallery to be over here. And now you want it to show thumbnails. So here we've got a gallery again. I'm going to shrink it down so it fits the page a little better. And put it right there. And now we've got to add some images to the gallery. I know my box back there somewhere. Okay.
So do you have to do everything through that sync box, or can you actually go to the files on your computer?
Yeah, either.
Either way?
Yeah. So
you-
this is just where I store
This
them.
is how you organize it?
Yeah. So here's some pictures. Predictably, I'm going to go get some pictures of my dogs. So let's see, let's put Bo in there. Let's put Bo and Ellie in there, let's put Bo and Shayla in there, let's put our rescue pups in there, and Bailey and Shayla's. Ooh, so I've just added a whole bunch of pictures into this, and so I'm gonna call this cute dogs. And then put a caption. Actually, you can put captions for each of the pictures, so this, you can say, this is asking, and so on. All right, so I put that down there. Last thing we're going to do, move this down. Maybe put it all together. Again, this is a table that I so maybe here we're going to do a little quiz. So we called this chapter Dogs in Eastern Europe. So I think we need a little quiz here. Spectre up. So we want to have something in there maybe about Eastern Europe. So I'm going to go in here. Here's the first question, and we'll say, what is the capital of Romania? And my first answer is going to be Budapest. Second answer is going to be Bucharest. Third answer is going to be I need a rest. And maybe I only want 3, so I'm going to come over here and change it to just a 3. And then, of course, if I spell Bucharest, right? Then we're going to put that as the correct answer. And if I wanted to, then of course I come over here in my little widget box and I can add questions and so on. So I'm adding all of these elements, and now I want to know what it looks like. So we can hit the preview. Portrait, okay, sorry with me. So it generates a preview of the book and pops it up. And this is what it's going to look like. So here we've got all the images. So I click on that, oh, it pops them up. And so then we can flip through all of those images that I just dragged and dropped. This was the picture we had in the paper after our dogs were rescued off the top of they look really pissed off in this picture. For good reason, because we left them up there overnight. Right. And so there's all the pictures of it. All right, here's the video. So we start, well, I want full screen, so there it is. And this is something, again, I've created in my office using Camtasia. I'm not plugged into the sound. I guess it could be. Let's see.
Recall from the introduction that arguments are used to establish that something is the case, while explanations are used to establish why or how it is that something is the case. To drive home this distinction,
So it's pretty cool the stuff you can do, just sitting in your office and putting videos and such together. So we're going to just scroll over to the next page here. Now we've got this quiz. Okay, I want to take this. So what is the capital of Romania? Everybody knows it's Budapest. It's Bucharest. So check the answer. Tells you got it right. If I had said Budapest, clear the answer. If I had said Budapest, then it's going to say no. And you can build into the widget, explanations for why it's wrong and so on.
Can you only put one question, or can you put a whole slew of questions in there and then you
Oh,
can
yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
be there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
So
great.
you can put in as many questions as you like.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be this format either. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can do it. So another thing to show you, so here we are in chapter 1. So we can go up here, look at the table of contents, go into a thumbnail view. So this is what it's going to look like for students. So here's the beginning of the chapter that we call Wildcat Argument Basics. One thing that's neat now is once we've created it, this would be more impressive if we had more sections, because it would list them all under here. You can create, you can click on the section title here, and it pulls up that particular section. So there's a lot of really neat functionality that, again, you lose if you have to export this thing as a PDF. also have this little nifty note feature over here so they can highlight, add notes, everything else to the book. Okay.
Do you ever use external links to anything? Or can you in this one?
Oh, yeah, you certainly can.
So I would assume it'd be the same as you would.
Yep. Yeah, that would be no problem at all. All right, questions so far? Some of the fun stuff we can do. So let's look at, I'm gonna pull
So
up.
students don't need to have a Mac to view this, after you've put it in
That's,
PDF?
that's
is that-
the limitation, is they need an Apple product. So they need a
Okay.
Mac or an iPad. I think they can even use it on their iPhone, but
But
you
it
can't do it.
has to
Yep.
be,
And they won't let you create an EPUB. Why? Because if you were able to export it as an EPUB, then you can put it up on Amazon or something and sell it yourself, and they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know that you've created it necessarily with iBooks Author unless, right, then they wouldn't get their cut. So,
but you can still provide it for free for your students, though.
oh, absolutely.
Correct?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they do have to support it and build on it, so they do need some money coming in, I guess.
Yeah.
They don't need some
Absolutely.
money. That's why you download for free.
Yep.
Oh, no, it's
All right, I'm going to go into iBooks here, and I'll show you. So here's my book, The Art Science Critical Thinking. I'm going to full page this, and for reasons of oops, let's do that. Try again. For reasons of beyond me, it always comes up some weird spot. So here's what it looks like with a full-blown book. So here's, this is the kind of graphic that I was talking about that they can create for you. So this is unique to my book. You can click on any of these and get to the various sections. You can scroll this way to get from one chapter to the other. Or you can just click down here if there's a particular page that you want to go to. That works as well. So currently I'm just going to the table of contents, but you can also get to things by scrolling down here. So the copyright notice, line management, introduction, whatever. So pull that in chapter 5, and then just start scrolling across. And there again, we've got video built in. I'm sure by the end of the semester, the students will see it's to every single video. Console group.
That is so cool.
One other, okay, that's something else that we forgot to do. Let me show you this. That we can do with creating our text. So let's go back here. Suppose that we want to create a glossary. That's very easy. So here we've got the word argument. I'm highlighting the word argument. And I want to put that into my glossary. So when I've highlighted that, notice that it's already put that term up here, anticipating that I might want to create a glossary item. So then I just say, add term, and then I can click on it. Takes me to the glossary, and I can put in a definition. So instead of propositions, which and I'm done. So I go back here, and let me do a preview on this, so you can see how it works. So when the student's going through here, and you can have these highlighted, and then of course the little pointer comes up. They say, oh, I defined it here, so it's probably redundant. But they want to know what that means. They click on it, And it pulls it right up.
That is awesome.
That is so cool.
If you want to pull up what it means in the dictionary, instead of my glossary, you can pull that up as well. So, all kinds of fun stuff you can do. All right, so that just gives you a sense of the programs that are out there, how easy it is to put these sort of eTexts together. I've made it look a little easier than it is because a lot of time goes into formatting things and making it look nice and learning how to get things to fit in just the right spot. And if you're doing editing and your text moves, you want everything else to move with it and so on. But you know, it's something that you can learn just playing around with it. I don't think that's something you can do very easily with InDesign. But with InDesign, you can create the EPUBs. So you've got to pick your poison. Yeah.
So you said that Ty was a really good help for you with the iBooks.
Mhm.
Who or where would you go for help with InDesign?
There's a couple of different options. So periodically, we do have Adobe reps who come to campus, and I think that they, when they're here, they can help you with that. There's also the Lynda site that you can go to, LYNDA, and that's they've got just all sorts of training videos. That is a subscription service, however, and Ty does have a subscription to it. So sometimes if you say, you know, Ty, I really need to learn how to do something in this particular program, he'll go in and send you a link to it where you can go up to the faculty computer lab in Lampros, and he'll log you into his Lynda account there, and you can watch the videos and so on.
I know Scott Rogers, my product, does Google stuff in InDesign.
Mhm.
I don't know who taught him.
Okay. And, you know, with time, you can learn it, but, you know, the manuals for when you just digress. You know, I haven't taught you to start messing around and figure it all out.
Are you going to show us Camtasia?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to show us how to use Camtasia?
I would, except I don't have it loaded on this computer.
But it's easy.
It takes a little bit of time, but it's a funny program because when you first pull it up, it looks intimidating, like InDesign, but in fact, it's not that hard.
Well, that's something you could go up to Lampros Hall and have someone sit with you
Yeah.
and work with them, right?
Or, you know, there's a little $10 manual, it's about yay big, and it just works you through all these little exercises. And it took me, I don't know, 6 to 10 hours maybe to do that. And once I did, I knew all about editing videos.
And then
You
also
saw some of the stuff that I do, so learning how,
Relationships are a fundamental feature of reality.
so learning how
Some,
to
because of their
do the
commonality,
fade-ins and fade-outs.
seem rather mundane,
that I do.
though oftentimes their familiarity is dull economic. This is an effect to ring. Then pressing the button is the independent variable. It was not brought about by anything within the causal relationship in question, while the bell ringing is the dependent variable. Its occurrence depends on
watching with that, but, you know, learning how to pull these things in and fade in.
So you record yourself first and then you work with it.
Yeah, so I record myself using my Logitech camera and the program that comes with that. And then with Camtasia, there's something that just says import media. And these slides you can create with PowerPoint. And then you save them as JPEGs. So instead of, you've got your whole PowerPoint there, and you say save as JPEG, and then it'll give you an option, it'll say save this slide or save them all. And I say save them all, and then it puts them all into a special folder, and they're all just right there. So you just dump those into Camtasia, you dump the video into Camtasia, anything else that you want to throw into the presentation. And then you've got a little line on the bottom, just a little workspace, and you just drag things and drop them down onto there, and you can work on it. Then you create it as an MP4, and there it is.
Do you get any pushback from students in terms of, well, I don't have a Mac, I don't have an Apple product? Do you ever get that?
This is only my,
So what do you
yeah,
do?
so this is only my second semester using the eText. So last semester I did it, I actually, what I ended up doing last semester is I just gave them the text version of it, and then I posted all the videos on Canvas. So it wasn't integrated. This is the first semester that I've done it integrated, and I just pushed it out to them as a PDF. So I haven't had any students actually do it like this. So ideally, what I'd like to do going forward is to have both the iBooks version and an EPUB version. And then students can choose which one. Because I'm guessing even with this company that the university is teaming up with, I'm guessing that the EPUB version is going to lose some of the functionality of the iBooks version. None of the real content, but just some of the being able to skip around, look at the table of contents and all that good stuff.
So when you push it out as a PowerPoint, it saves it in entirety, and then if do you push it out in the course, or they download it and then they click on the links or how?
As a PDF, you mean?
It's usually the PDFs, you know, if you have links, so even if you're not in Canvas, will open up.
Yeah, yeah.
When you click on it, but I didn't know how you were loading it in Canvas or having it.
Oh, yeah, so I just put it up in Canvas, the PDF, and I can show you that version real fast.
So basically, you would just load it up like any other PDF, and they could either open it or download it from Canvas as
Yes.
they currently do.
Yeah, there it is. Now, which one has the video? That's the question. Okay, there's the PDF, no videos. Which one of these two? Probably this one. So here it is as a PDF. And it takes a few minutes. So now I can just scroll through it. You know, you don't have kind of that neat layout that you have with the iBooks version. But still, I mean, the videos are in here now. It pops this up, except that there's a lecture that you can't maximize.
The ability to evaluate arguments and explanations.
So, you know, it's still built into the PDF. But when you do this, you lose, you know, quizzes, you lose some of those other neat things that you have in iBooks version.
If you want to include an article written by someone else, you still have to deal with all the legal stuff, right? Like getting the permission and stuff.
Yeah, now as someone was telling Sylvia, what was the session that you were telling me about, Sylvia, that you attended? And somebody asked that question? You don't remember? Because the workaround on that is,
It was our college retreat.
okay,
And
the
they said,
workaround is don't import it into your thing, just link to
just
it.
link to it.
And then if the person you're linking to is violating copyright, that's their
It's on
problem.
there. It's on there.
Okay, that's good to know.
It said the videos, if you link to YouTube, it's on YouTube, Ted.
Okay.
Copyright not on you, so just put the links in the course and not the actual article, the actual video.
That's interesting.
And hope the person that you're linking to doesn't take it down.
Yeah.
Well, didn't you all watch the video? Well, no, it wasn't there. Okay.
Yeah, Andrea and Darcy.
Anything else? All right.
So this is the version your students are seeing this semester,
Yes.
and what feedback you have so far?
I haven't had much feedback so far because it's an online class. The feedback that I had last semester, the students really liked it. They said, oh, it's a really readable text, and we love the videos, and blah, blah, blah.
And that was
So-
totally online also?
No.
That was
no.
the base?
Yeah, I had 2 sections face-to-face where I did this.
Could they view it if they brought a Mac, could they have access to it in that format, in the iBook format?
Oh, sure, I could do it, yeah, push it out.
have you done that? No.
I haven't.
Okay.
Haven't done that yet. So my goal this summer, again, ideally is to have both the iBooks and the EPUB formats available, so the students
So will you have
can choose.
to, would you do it on InDesign if you do EPUB and EPUB?
No, there's, the company that the university is working
Okay.
with through Campus Stores, they claim they can create EPUBs pretty quickly if you do the content.
And
so,
you've got all the stuff.
yeah. So we'll see if they can live up to the hype.
So just to clarify, with EPUBs, they're doing more of the layout as to how it looks versus what you're doing, or not necessarily?
Yeah, so what we've been looking
Because
at,
you
this
did a
is
lot
the
of format, you
PDF.
did a lot of formatting and design, it looked like.
Yes. And ideally, it'd be nice to be able to get this sort of look into the EPUB. But you lose some of the functionality, so that ability to the ability to go up to here and be able to
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm guessing that this sort of stuff is not going to be available in EPUB format.
Who's the contact?
For-
Stores that it's working on?
Tim Eck and Kyle, what is his name? But Tim is the name. Now my goal here, something else I haven't talked about. My original goal was to have a text that I could just push out to free for students. However, it turns out that there's an endowment fund that I'm trying to get going in our department. And we've gone through legal and everything, and legal said, yeah, I can sell this book and have all the proceeds go toward that endowment. So instead of having the students buy a $130 book, I'm going to sell it for $40. Apple or whoever's going to take their 30% cut. So $28 per student is going to go to this endowment fund, and it's going to be built, completely funded within about 5 years. So it's another advantage of doing this. But I'm not going to sit down with it. I have no intention of profiting from writing books that I sell to my own students.
The grant was very, because it took a lot.
Yes.
I can see how much time is so strict. That's the one thing that's intimidating right now. Trying to do this. Hours. Are you putting yourself down as a resource for us?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, anytime you want help.
That will take money.
Yeah.
Tom.
We may have to do some negotiation here.
Well, thank you all for coming. Appreciate it.
And I want to thank you all for coming as well. Now, we're going to have